All right, welcome back to the Healthy Celiac Podcast. I'm super excited today to be talking to Kendra Williams, who's all the way over the other side of the world today in San Diego. And she is here to tell us about her amazing journey with celiac disease. But what I'm super excited to learn from Kendra is all about her gluten detection dog that she personally trained, and learn all about how Suki is supporting her on her celiac journey. So welcome to the show, Kendra. It's great to have you here.
So glad to be here, Belinda. Thank you so much for having me. It's so exciting to talk to you in Australia and talk to all your listeners, and super excited to share with you guys.
Fantastic. Thank you. So if you want to just let us know, first of all, about your celiac journey, because I know it was a little interesting for you how you got your diagnosis and what some of your symptoms were. So do you mind sharing with our listeners about that?
Absolutely. So I would say I was fairly non-traditional. I mean, obviously, learning about celiac disease, there's over 200 symptoms, and they're very varied. Mine were completely different than the typical. So I actually was really, really sick for a long time. I had I always my whole life have had really bad bronchial problems. So like asthma and allergies, and I would get bronchitis, a couple times a year and things like that. But this year I just could not shake it. And I had a cough for months on end, like terrible, like a bad bronchitis cough. I mean, It was so bad I had to sleep sitting up. That was how bad it was. And I went to tons of different doctors and everything, and nobody could tell me what was wrong with me. And they were like, it's acid reflux. Okay, take these meds. And then finally I went to an integrated doctor, and he was like, you've got a big problem with gluten. And he was then the one that ultimately ended up diagnosing me with celiac disease. Wow. So, and before that, I'd had anemia. Now you look back, I had anemia, and they tested for everything under the sun with the anemia, and then they just put it off that it was, it was just female health related, and that was just part of the the way it was. Just take some iron and you'll feel better. And so it was, looking back, you can see lots of stuff. So so the challenge was, then I went gluten-free, and then several months later, my cough, it was gone. Like, it significantly improved over time. So, it's not a traditional symptoms, but there is literature that says people have had coughs and stuff like that. And when you think about it, the lining of your lungs, I mean, it's the same kind of cells that, are inside the intestines and everything like that. And it was just so bad. And then I've had other health issues too prior. A lot of times autoimmune diseases go in multiples. I had thyroid issues 20 years ago, and thyroid cancer, and had my thyroid removed. So, who's to say? I do have two of the genes. I have the DQ8 and DQ2. So, I don't know what or not. I was just diagnosed in 2017. So it wasn't, I was fully an adult. And so you look back and you look at all those things and go, oh, I remember as a kid laying on the ground after eating a pasta dinner and feeling like somebody was stabbing me in the stomach. And, going, oh, I probably, my family was like, oh, you probably ate too much. That's your problem. But so who's to say? I don't know. And probably the year prior to my diagnosis, I had a lot of weird days where I'd be up in the morning and then you have to go throw up randomly, and it wasn't. So you just don't know how much of it, my body just reached that cap, and then it was just shutting down. So since going gluten-free, significant improvement in my health, and my abilities. It's like an onion, though, especially as somebody that was diagnosed late in life, you have where there's other health issues, there's other things, there's gut issues where, I've had things where I've gone back to the doctor and they found, I had H. pylori, and as many people do, and we kind of are like, oh, well, I'm sick again. Maybe I got gluten. And so I thought that a lot at the beginning. And then after getting Suki, I knew I'm like, I'm not getting gluten. So then it's helped me kind of dig further into my issues and stuff like that, and, continue to fine tune my health and address other issues. But it's been an interesting journey for sure with celiac disease. But I'm so glad to have figured out that that was the problem with me.
Yes, absolutely. And so many people struggle for so long. Like, your story is quite similar to my mum's, that she was a young kid and she had the stomach pains, and everyone was just like, oh, that's just born, that's just how she is. And it was just accepted. People just accept it as your normal. But then when you reflect on it, like you said, you just know that that's not normal, and there were signs there and people aren't picking up on them. And it's really interesting that they didn't test you for celiac disease with the anemia, because so many people that I work with say that they had no other symptoms but anemia, and that was what got them a celiac diagnosis.
I don't think they did. I mean, I'd have to go back and look at my paperwork. They tested me for tons of stuff.
Yeah.
I mean, they had said, they were really scared that there was some very serious, you might have leukemia. They told me all this stuff, and I'm like,
wow.
Afterwards, I go, you could have saved me a lot of heartache and fear. So yeah, it's weird that they didn't. And the anemia did go away. I had a hysterectomy, and after that, then I wasn't anemic anymore. So they're like, oh, well, that solved the problem.
Yeah.
Right? But it's just one of those where you go, it's you just don't know. And I did have a triggering event too. I was in a ski accident in 2015 and tore my ACL, and so I was pretty hurt. So it was kind of major knee surgery, ACL, like 3 months recovery kind of a thing, just trying to get better. So I don't know if that was like the trigger, because after that, my health really did go downhill pretty quickly.
Yeah.
So.
Okay. It's interesting, isn't it?
Yeah. Yeah.
Wow. And Suki's just made an appearance on screen for those of you watching on YouTube, but listening at home, you won't be able to see. But Suki is a beautiful black dog. What type of dog is she?
She is a Portuguese water dog. So she's a 4-year-old Portuguese water dog. And we just came back from our walk. So you can't tell. She's got her harness on, so I don't want people to think, does she just lay around in the house with the harness on? But she is laying back there. So yeah, she's a 4-year-old Portuguese water dog, and I got her. Well, I had heard about gluten detection dogs, and I thought that's something interesting. And I had an older dog. I had a senior dog that I knew wasn't going to. He was 16.
Oh, wow.
He wasn't going to be around very much longer.
Yeah.
And so I was like, I really do like having dogs, and I'd like to, for my next dog, I really would like to get a gluten detection dog. And the challenge was that I, you just don't know what to do. And I was getting sick every time I went out. And for my work, I traveled a lot and had a lot of, business meetings that were food related and dinners.
Yeah, that's rough.
And trade shows and things like that. And it just was to the point where it was really impacting my life. And I thought this dog would really help. And so when the pandemic happened, and I traveled so much, so then I was like, how am I going to train this dog when I'm traveling? And so the pandemic happened, and I was like, well, now's your time. And it was kind of perfect timing. And then I started down the path of training her. And I trained her with the help of a gluten detection trainer. And so we trained where I did the training, but we'd have sessions over Zoom, and then she would critique me and look at what I was doing and work through the process, the issues. And then I did some local training, like puppy classes and things like that with people here, although that was somewhat limited because of COVID, because things weren't happening there. But all the training I did with her was here, just her and I.
Wow, it's incredible.
So
talk us through that process. So is it mainly puppies that you can train, or can you do it with older dogs?
You theoretically can do it with older dogs. I recommend. I mean, there's a lot of stuff I know now,
Yeah.
and that I didn't know then, and there's things I did that I would not recommend. I do recommend with a puppy, because the challenge is the older the dog is, you're having to retrain bed habits.
Yeah.
To, like, most dogs aren't super cautious about, they might lick food off a plate or things like that. That's hard. You have to retrain that. Where you start from a puppy, hey, when you have a bowl or a plate or a cup, you don't eat off of it. You eat off of your bowl.
Yeah.
So that those kind of pieces. But then you also have the life. So the process takes like 2 years to train.
Wow, 2 years. Goodness. Yeah.
It's 2 years. Wow. So if you started with an older dog and you train for 2 years, and then at what point are they going to be ready to retire?
Yeah.
Because it is physically demanding for them, not only just the sniffing and things like that, but if they're going out with you places, if you're traveling, it's a lot more. Most dogs are laying around most of the time, right? Unless they're working on a farm or a ranch or something like that. But most dogs that are house pets, they're laying on the couch 90% of the time. So you have that. And it also depends on the breed and things like that. It's best to train from a puppy that you select. And I recommend working with a trainer to find a good breeder and finding really selecting the dog, having somebody test the puppy to see if they're going to be right, because nothing's guaranteed when you train these dogs. Something could happen. They could have health issues. They could have issues on the, during the training where they're just, they don't like it, or they're not cut out for it. Or, sometimes you have dogs going through the training and they get to a point where they can do at-home work, but they never pass the in public work, the public access work. And those kind of things do happen. But when you work and get kind of those qualities ahead of time with the trainer, and then figure out, okay, the breeder, this is the dog that I want, and then you have somebody that knows what they're doing, test for those features, and see, hey, how does that dog respond to, things like loud noises, and how are they when you touch them? How do they engage? So an example that I use a lot is when, and I did not do this, full disclosure, with Suki. I got super lucky because I knew just enough, and the breeder ended up showing me 2 dogs. She goes, okay, I'll let you choose between 2 because I know it's going to be a service dog. And we were thinking all along, she was like, this boy is the one for you. This boy is the one for you. So she brought me out a boy and a girl. That boy, it's funny when you look at the video, he wanted nothing to, he's like chewing on something in the corner, wanted nothing to do with me. And she was eyes on me the whole time and was like running over.
So she chose you.
She chose me 100%. So, he would have not really been that way because he wasn't attentive to me. So I lucked out for sure. She chose me. But if you work with a breeder that breeds for those type of characteristics, so temperament, energy levels, interest, and really good breeders that are working on traits and qualities, and also health. I mean, health is super important. You don't want a dog that's going to have a lot of health issues, and that's a hard part when you hear people, when you get a rescue or something like that, then all of a sudden they have some kind of serious health issue, and that's really important when you have a service dog, because you've invested so much time and energy, and obviously they're more than just a dog. They're a lifeline. They're your partner every day.
Yeah, definitely. So talk us through what that training kind of looks like. When you say it takes 2 years, that's an incredible amount of dedication. And like you said, you were home with COVID, perfect timing. So what does that actually look like? So when you're training, I know I've seen videos of you where you give Suki treats and things when she does a good job, and, how does that actually work? Talk us through that.
So it's kind of 2 different sets of training. So you have foundational training, manners and behavior, and things like that. That's going to be like you would do for a pet dog, but then extra. So, you're going to have more things like how to ride on public transit and, how to act appropriately around how to settle in busy environments and things like that. If you're in a classroom or a business meeting or something like that. So those are basic foundational skills that you're doing, and those are ongoing. So those are things you're training every single day, literally all day, because you have to make sure you're not rewarding bad habits and things like that. So that's something ongoing you do every day. Then you are also doing everyday gluten detection pieces. And the way the process works, so you're not working with a trainer every day. A trainer, you're usually meeting 1 to 2 times a week.
Okay.
Depending on the age of the puppy, a half hour at a time kind of a thing. It's not, so maybe an hour a week, every single week. Puppies have really short attention spans, and get older, so you can't do an hour-long lesson. And most training is short bursts. Okay. So you're going to do you're going to do something for 5 repetitions, and that's it. And then you're done because their attention span, it's like small children. You have to do that. So you start with, introducing the gluten, and then you work on that, and you work on the alerts that go along with it. And then you do no gluten, and then kind of combination of both. And then you can start adding in foods to it. So you work as you go. So it's every day you're training with something.
Okay.
So it's a different thing. And it doesn't happen quickly. Like you think, okay, I'm going to go out. If you're learning a skill, you learn how to ride a bike, okay, maybe we're going to do that for a few days, and you get up, or maybe it's a few weeks. This is repetition after repetition. And you move in a sequence. So you start with, them just finding it and smelling it in its large amounts. And then you continue to add complexity to it. Okay. Then you're going to have the alert that goes along with it. And then you're going to add, more food. And then you decrease the gluten. And it goes all the way down to tiny amounts of gluten. So we train down to trace amounts of gluten, which is basically gluten that's left over on a piece of paper, which I can show you. Up some of my stuff right here.
That's incredible, isn't it? For safety, that's just amazing. And I think this would play such a huge role in so many people's lives.
Okay. This is a piece of, it's like 2 pieces of parchment paper.
Yep.
And those had basically like a dough ball of gluten sitting on them for a very short period of time.
Okay.
And then Suki's excited because I have to touch that. She's
like a toy.
This is her favorite game.
Aww.
She'll stand here and I know we're not gonna do it. Last night she's standing there like crying, wanting me to do it. So we still, you go all the way through that, and then you add more complexity where you do training at home, but then you train outside. So if I'm training, behavioral is easy for me to talk about. You're training like laying down at your feet underneath a chair. Yeah. You practice that at home, right, for a long period of time so they're comfortable. They'll lay for a long time. Then you might go into a little bit busier area. Maybe it's a park with not much traffic. Then you practice it out there. Then you would practice, at a coffee shop that doesn't have much traffic, in a weird hour. So there might be a handful of people walk. So the difficulty keeps increasing.
Okay, that makes sense.
And then you would go to a busier restaurant. Yeah. Same thing with grocery stores. So so you keep adding on the difficulty as you go, but each step of that has to build. And then if you don't have success, you have to go back. So it's kind of like a video game where you don't pass a level and you got to go back to the level.
That makes sense.
That's exactly how it is. And gluten detection works the same way. So you train the basics for gluten, and you do all that, and then you're also training in public and things like that. So you might have the skills really firmly here. And I think most people would probably, well, yeah, at home when I call my dog in the backyard, my dog comes, right? Their recall's really good. But if I'm at the dog park and I call my dog, it doesn't listen to me at all. And that's the thing. We have to get those skills to where they're built in, no matter the environment. And dogs, the thing about dogs is, in gluten detection, dogs, nobody's 100%. They're dogs. They're going to have good days. They're going to have bad days.
Yeah.
And there's days when, like, Suki, you got to listen to me. Like, come on.
Yeah.
Stop sniffing that bush. But so we kind of move through that.
Fantastic. So how does it look? Let's just put it through a situation for our listeners. So let's just say you were to go out for a meal. Do you go out to that restaurant and you order a meal as you should for celiac disease, and then Suki's like a backup plan, or talk us through that and how that works and how she detects the gluten for you?
Yeah. So I wish that I could say, and I think when I entered into this, I thought, oh, it's going to be like it was. It's going to be normal. Life's going to be normal again. It is not.
Yeah.
You still have to do the research on the restaurant. You still have to call ahead and look at the menus and, ask all the questions when you're in the restaurant. But the beauty is, so the food comes, she checks the plate. So I would hold the plate out to her. She sniffs around the plate, and then she will boop her nose to my knee, my leg, if it's gluten-free, and she will sit and raise a paw if it's gluten. And the relief that you feel after that is unbelievable. I have to say, after being diagnosed, and I didn't realize what a mental load that was, that fear of eating every second, that fear of, it's Russian roulette. It's a 50-50 chance that I'm going to get sick. And that was basically every single time I went out to eat, unless it was something I cooked myself or a dedicated gluten-free restaurant. And frankly, I've gotten sick off stuff that I've had at home. So it's there's still some aspect to it too. But just to be able to sit and enjoy a meal without worry is huge.
Yeah.
So that's the insurance policy. I would say the other area where it's been super helpful for me is that she also checks all my medicine. So in the United States, no medicines are not labeled for any allergens. So it's super challenging. And one of the things, last ones before Suki was fully trained, I was on some antibiotics, and I took one and I was super sick. And I thought I had food poisoning. I thought it was a little strange because it was COVID and I was home and I only ate food that I'd made. But I thought, well, sometimes you get bad, vegetables or something like that. And so then the next day I took that same pill, and then I realized 15 minutes later, I feel the same as I did yesterday. And it never occurred to me that it was the day before, because that's crazy. Yeah. So I still have that bottle of pills. I keep it. And after Suki was fully trained, probably a few months later, because she was already in training, I had her check it, and they have gluten in them.
Yeah. Incredible.
And I was sick for 2 weeks after that. So she saved me a couple times from medicine that time, and then another time on medicine, which that's another thing that's a huge relief, because I don't have to worry that that's going to make me sick either.
Yeah, it's amazing. What a little lifesaver. That's incredible. So how do staff receive you? So when you go to a restaurant, how do they react? Because it's not common. Like, I've never come across a gluten detection dog here in Australia, and I just think it's such an incredible thing to come across. So how are people receiving you when you go out?
It's super interesting. It varies. I would say sometimes we get some pushback because there are a lot of fake service dogs, or people just, especially where I live in California,
really?
people go everywhere with their pets all the time. And so some places are just tired of it. And then they're like, well, your dog can't come. And I'm like, but she's a service dog. So I have to sometimes fight a little bit more and explain the law and, that she can go. That is pretty rare. I mean, it doesn't happen all the time. So that's a good thing. When otherwise, I get a lot of interest in it. People are excited about her. It's funny, you can see on some of my videos, people will comment, they're like, because people are watching you. And it's like servers from the restaurants. And so a lot of times they'll stand there and make sure. I do think sometimes it helps them be a little more conscientious about the food.
I wondered that. I do say,
I have this severe, gluten allergy. I always say allergy because they take it more seriously that way.
Yeah.
And, I do say I have celiac disease. I said severe gluten allergy. My gluten detection dog will check it. And then they're kind of like, oh. And places that really do it well and feel a sense of pride in it, it's super interesting. Because they'll be like, how'd we do?
Yeah.
Did we get a good grade? And they'll stand there and watch it. So it kind of depends, but for the most part, really, really positive.
Yeah. Oh, that's amazing.
Yeah.
Very, very cool. Yeah. And what about, so I know that with other service dogs, it's not encouraged to approach them and pat them and, give them attention and that type of thing. Is it the same with Suki? Is it that people need to just give her space, let her do her work and just leave her be? How does that look?
Yes. And that unfortunately doesn't always happen. I would say sometimes it does. It's never like the kids are always super respectful. It's usually the women walking in the grocery store that are like making kissy noises at her and, hey, because it's not me usually they talk to, it's her, aren't you a cutie?
Oh.
And she's doing a lot of work, like just even navigating a grocery store. I mean, you think about it, she's got to stay out of the way of the cart next to me, the people. You don't think about things until you have a service dog, how many poles there are, and displays and things like that. Like I have to realize too, I need to be careful and navigate. And then she's working really hard. The amount of energy she needs to expend to do the gluten detection, even though she does it, it's seconds.
Yeah.
It's still brain power. Like that's a lot of thinking, like doing a really high level comprehension task for us. That's kind of what the dogs are doing.
Yeah.
So all of that takes concentration. And when people talk to her, it's hard. Now, she's only working when she's checking, right? I mean, in a grocery store, that's when I really don't like people to talk because grocery shopping is hard, right? You have a mission so that's like I'm trying, and a lot of times you're just trying to be as efficient as possible. I got to get the things on my list. I have to go home because I got to make dinner.
Yeah.
So I prefer not to. But if I'm, for example, I'm at church or something like that, and she goes with me to church, or I'm at a business meeting that I've gone to, I will always let people talk to me. You always want to talk to the handler, not to the dog, and ask permission before, because it will be distracting to the dog. The other thing is Suki is a gluten detection dog, but most service dogs, you don't know what they are. Like her vest, it says gluten detection, and many dogs can have multiple tasks, so you don't know. And a lot of times people you look at me, you go, oh, I didn't know, you look well.
Yeah.
And a lot of people are young and fit, but they might have a seizure dog or a cardiac alert dog or, a diabetes dog that's going to do a blood sugar alert. Those ones you 100% don't want to distract that dog, because if that dog gets distracted, that means they're not smelling, because most of them are also detecting off the handler's body scent. They may miss an alert, and somebody with a heart condition, they're falling on the floor and they're going to hurt themselves badly, right? So that's why I say never talk to the dog, just talk to the handler and be sensitive, because there are also, PTSD dogs, anxiety, psychiatric dogs. Those are not going to be labeled. And somebody like that may have autism dogs. They're not going to want to talk. I have no problem. I mean, I do this all the time on social media, and I want to educate people. And I have a little card. I'll give you a card. If I can't talk, then it'll give you more information about Suki. But I'm happy to, like I said, at church or at different things, I'll let people greet her and stuff like that. And she loves it. Like, for her, she loves people. It's super exciting for her. And so that's a reward for her.
Yeah.
But I have to temper it too, because I don't want her to be, get distracted, because then she's like, oh, it's fun. Now we can play with all these people.
Yeah.
And I'm just going to be a dog and be excited and, wanting to be leaning against you, and you're trying to conduct business.
Yeah.
And I need to be on the floor and being calm and quiet. And it's a little bit harder for me to get her energy level down, after that. So,
yeah, that makes a lot of sense. So you've mentioned you take her to restaurants, you've taken her on public transport, you've taken her to church. This is a question I've got for you. Being an ex-flight attendant, are you taking her on planes at all? Do you?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay, so that's part of.
She's flown all over the States, even to Hawaii.
Oh, cool.
So we've flown to Hawaii. She's flown to Florida 4 times. So that's across the country. We're in California, so Florida's as far as we've gone, basically all across, but 4 times back and forth across the country.
Yeah.
We've flown to Minneapolis, which is pretty much across the country as well. So we've flown all over. She's been to 9 different states.
Wow.
And some multiple times, like I said.
Yeah.
And road trips too. So when she flies under the seat in front of me, or if fit in a bulkhead, she just lays right in front. Yeah. And I have a little mat that I put down, and she's so good now. Now I just put the little. We walk to the aisle, and she goes in, and usually I pick a window that's fast if I'm able, and then she just gets under the seat and just kind of backs in. So her bottom will be towards the front, and she'll be looking at me, and she just lays down and sleeps.
Yeah, beautiful. What a good dog.
Yeah. Yeah,
it's incredible.
No, she's such a good girl. I mean, it's really funny because I'll have people literally sitting next to me, because she's black too. You can't see her, when it starts down there. My feet are there too. I've literally multiple times had people sitting next to me that go, I had no idea there was a dog down there.
Yeah, wow.
Yeah.
That's a very well behaved dog.
Yeah. She's a real good girl, and she just kind of goes with the flow, and will walk next to me in the airport.
Yeah.
We're our next big thing, we do want to start to do some international travel. So that's, I'm trying to gear up to that. So you never know. One day we might come to Australia.
Yeah, visit us.
That's a far.
That's a big flight. That's a really big flight. I've been to America 3 times, and it's a long haul.
We might have to stop over in Fiji or something in between.
Yeah, it's a good idea.
Break it up a bit.
Right? Exactly. Yeah, definitely.
Fiji was I've been to Fiji. That's as far that way as I've been. And that was 10 hours from Los Angeles, so it wasn't. Yeah. That's not much further than we flew to Hawaii, so that's good. Yeah, that's pretty good. We could do that.
Yeah. So just chatting with you, my brain's kind of going a little bit crazy here, thinking of how a gluten detection dog could help others. So do you think that there's a particular type of person that a gluten detection dog would be most beneficial for? Who do you think would be the most?
I would say you continue to get sick. Your celiac is not well managed. You're having issues with finding the source of your problem. So specifically, somebody that has refractory celiac disease, 100%. And the original gluten detection dog was trained by Don Choi of Willow Service Dogs, and Don has refractory, and that was kind of the impetus behind it, because their need at that level is zero. You know, I mean, they need completely eliminate that. So I would say definitely somebody that has refractory, somebody that is getting sick a lot, and somebody that, you know, that has a need, you know, that their lifestyle is really being limited by it to do that. I would say you also have to be somebody that has the time and ability to do, because it's not a device, you know, it's a lot of work. I mean, I saw my neighbors this morning, and they're like, oh yeah, we see you walk that dog 4 times a day, you know, and and we do maintenance training. So even though she's fully trained, I have to do maintenance training constantly with her. And work on that. So it's not a one and done. And the other part is you're taking a dog with you everywhere. And that requires a lot more effort. You know, it's kind of like having a small child with you.
That's right.
You gotta be thinking about all their needs, and did I bring the water? Did I bring the treats? Did I, you know, do I have her booties if it's too warm or too cold? And, you know, all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, definitely. Because like in the lead up to talking to you, I was thinking, you know, people that have got maybe special needs, it could be a really great extra for them to gain that support. And I wondered about children, but after talking with you, I think it's probably a bit too much for a child to be taking a gluten detection dog. Do you know people that are young that have gluten detection dogs and it works for them, or?
Off the top of my head, I don't know. I know someone that has a peanut detection dog, but she does not take that dog with her to school at this point. And she was like a middle schooler. I think she's starting high school. So, but you know, there are kids that have service dogs that go with them to school and things like that. I think you definitely could. It just is it's a lot, you know, and especially if you're able to control that environment, right? You can pack a lunch and take the lunch. So is it worth that extra hassle? And you can train dogs to do multiple things too. So maybe somebody, you know, if somebody has, you know, seizure issues or, you know, diabetes and celiac, where then you dog for 2 different things, that adds to the training process. But something like that. So yeah, I think it all depends. I do know, like the peanut detection dog, there are people that maybe have gotten them for their child, but the dog doesn't always go with them to school. Right? And I know I've talked to a lot of people that are like, I want to train a dog now while my daughter's here, so that the dog can go with her to college, to make that a more seamless transition.
Yeah, that makes sense.
And I think that makes a lot of sense. But you have to have, I mean, it's a lifetime commitment.
It is.
And it is definitely, you know, the lifetime of the dog. And it's well worth it. I mean, it's super rewarding, but I always want to be realistic with people that it's not just
it's not a quick
magic.
Fix.
It's not a quick fix. It's not a quick fix. I mean, I wouldn't trade her. She has made my life so much better in many ways. I mean, she's a great member of my family too. And it's fun to have her to travel with and things like that. But yeah, it is. It's a lot.
It's a lot. But I'm so glad that she's made your life so much more enjoyable and easier, and that's amazing to hear. So if people wanted to look further into either getting a gluten detection dog or training one, I know you've got some resources on your website. Would you recommend that people do the training themselves rather than buy a pre-trained gluten detection dog? Do you have any sort of opinions on that, or?
Yeah, the challenge is that there's no standards for gluten detection trainers or training. I've heard a lot of horror stories, especially in the pre-trained dogs. I mean, because of my social media following, I hear from people. You know, one of the saddest is I had a gal that got a dog that was trained at 6 months old trained gluten detection dog. No service dog is ever going to be trained at 6 months old. No dog is going to be trained at 6 months old because they haven't passed through their
puppies.
peer. Yeah. And that dog is not even potty trained, basically. And she spent, like $15,000. And so she's left with that. I've heard of people that, got dogs that weren't at all a fit for their lifestyle. So that's the challenge. I do on my website, which is sukipwd.com, sukipwd.com. And that I have like how to select a trainer and stuff like that.
Perfect.
I am working on some additional resources that would help people. The idea is we want people to understand it's a major commitment to get a service dog.
Yes.
If you train it yourself, or if you're getting a dog from a program, you have to. There's a lot to know ahead of time. I've shared some of the things there, but there's a lot of considerations about you and your lifestyle. So we're working on some resources that will kind of help people know what they need to know before they go down that path.
That sounds amazing.
That path. The one thing I will always recommend is that that people do work with professional trainers that specialize in gluten detection or allergen detection, because you cannot know, you are 50% of the thing. So we've talked a lot about training the dog. You are also in training. So my body positioning, how I'm rewarding, how I'm standing, how I move. Because there's points where, I was moving forward and I was signaling her to do one or the other, which you don't know. There's so much of this, of what you do that you can't ever know. Even if you video yourself, you can't know. So having somebody watch you, and I mean, the very first, the top trainer in gluten detection is Dawn Choi of Little Service Dogs, and she trains with a trainer when she trains her dogs.
Oh wow!
So
okay.
So just because you cannot see what you do, so I always recommend everybody bring somebody that you're working with so that you can know. And every dog's different too, and you kind of have to deal with somebody that is a professional that can help you work through challenges of training, because you are going to undergo them. There's going to be something that comes up where, dog is weirded out by this plate, or, a noise or a certain, I mean, those kind of things happen during training, and you have to work through it.
Yeah, definitely. And you've got some recommendations on your website for trainers as well, I believe. Is that correct?
Yes, I have some things. People can also reach out to me via my website or via social media. I'm on Instagram and TikTok and YouTube.
I'll pop all the links below to all of that.
All of it is Suki PWD. So
easy.
Absolutely. And stay tuned, because I am going to be having more of those resources. So
be amazing.
They're hopefully will be released shortly. So they'll be
keep us updated. And we'll share those. Well, thank you so much for your time today, Kendra. Was there anything else that you wanted to add to finish the show?
Thank you for talking to me today. And if people want to see Suki in action, I have tons of videos on my social media. So definitely check those out. And I'm happy to answer any questions people might have.
Fantastic. Perfect. Thank you. Thanks for listening, everyone. And we'll talk to you again next week. Bye. If you enjoyed this episode, head to belindawhelan.com to get yourself a free copy of my exclusive ebook, 11 Mistakes People Make Going Gluten-Free Living with Celiac Disease.